Tractate ברכות 5a, אמר רבי שמעון בן לקיש, כל העוסק בתורה ייסורים גדלים ממנו. A person wants the simple formula when he suffers from all kind of physical or emotional pain. The best resolution is to study Torah. He said, שנאמר ובני רשף יגביאו עוף. He brought a sentence that said, ואין עוף אלא תורה, which means that it's like staying away from a person, a distance from him. שנאמר התעיף אינך בו ואיננו, which means that it's like disappears, getting away from you. It's like one of the greatest teachers in Israel, the late Rav Shach, used to say, Torah magne umatzle, the Torah is protected and taking away suffering. How? They said, ואין רשף אל האיסורים שנאמר מזרע אבו לחומר רשף. So what he said here, that a person sometimes struggle over either physical pain or emotional pain. The best is to involve with studying Torah. It's like the best healing to a person's suffering. אמר לרבי יוחנן, אפילו תינוקות של בית רבן יודעים אותו. What's the big deal what you're saying? Everyone knows that. Why are you saying that? By the way, their relationship was very interesting between the two. I'm not sure if everyone knows the history. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish was a famous thief at the early stage of his biography. And the Talmud said that Rabbi Yochanan saw him the other side of the river, and they have a big talk. I make it short, and he convinced him to try Torah's life, and he changed, and he became not only a Torah student but a giant Torah scholar, and he married Rabbi Yochanan's sister, and they are the best chavruta, the best study made in these endless quote-unquote fights or discussions between the two. But because of his background, which was in a different society, a different world, he has all kind of depth that other didn't have. But anyway, here Rabbi Yochanan said to him, what's the big deal? What are you saying here? Everybody knows. How do you know it? Because the Torah said in the book of Exodus, they said, שנאמר ויאמר אם שמוע תשמע לקול השם אלוקיך. The Torah said that if you listen to the Lord your God, וישר בעיניו תעשה, you do what God asks you, והאזנת למצוותיו, you put your ear upon the mitzvot, ושמרת כל חוקיו, and you observe all the laws he asks you to do, כל המחלה, all the diseases, אשר שמתי במצרים לא אשים עליך, that I put upon the ancient Egyptian, I will not put upon you, כי אני השם רופאך, because I am your Lord your God who heal you. So what's the big deal? So he said, Ella, here is the answer. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, you are right, but I'll tell you a different angle to understand it. He said, כל שאפשר לו לעסוק בתורה ואינו עוסק. If someone has the opportunity to study Torah and is not involved in study Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy of Holies, who is the loving Father, מביא עליו ייסורים מכוערים ואוכרים אותו. So it means that the Almighty bring upon him suffering, and it's like teaching him in a hard way. שנאמר, they said in the book of Psalms, נעלמתי דומיה, החשיתי מטוב, וכאבי נעקר. The psalmist said in 39, I became silent and great pain. ואין טוב, why use the word טוב, good? טוב, in the equivalent definition, in analogous, is Ela Torah. It's the Torah שנאמר. We said it every time we return the Torah to the ark. Said, כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם, תורתי אל תעזובו. They said in the book of Proverbs, I give you a good portion, which is the Torah. Do not forsake my Torah. So that's what it meant. The rabbis elaborate on that and said, what's the reason the land destroyed? Al ma hazva avda haaretz. What's the reason the land destroyed? Because they forsake my Torah. So one of the reasons of the desolation of the Jewish suffering, it's because they don't appreciate the gift of Torah, And therefore, in a sense, God taking it back or taking it away. In a sense, God said, if you don't care for that, so why bother? While many rabbis hold that the key reason for anti-Jewish movement is because of jealousy that involved with the gift of the Torah. Because the Torah brings a person to such a brilliancy, such a understanding so many concepts, that if he or she is not appreciate this great blueprint of life, the Torah, then in a way God said, okay, you don't care for that, why bother with that? But the Gemarah elaborated on that and said, there are several things that in our language, the divine providence cried every day. And the first thing is someone who has the ability to study is not involved with studying. So in our language, the Shekhinah, the divine providence, cry over him. The second one is someone who really have no way to do it. Someone, God forbid, in a hospital, in a crisis. And even with all of that, he studies. So that's another reason for the Shekhinah to cry. But the first one is a good example of someone who has the ability to do it and not doing it. So that's a reason for sadness. So he said, Omar Rabbi Zera Vitema Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa is the name of rabbis. Come and see שלא כמידת הקדוש ברוך הוא מידת בשר ודם. The Almighty did not behave in a manner of human. מידת בשר ודם. What's usually the people interaction, the people way of thinking? אדם מוכר חפץ לחברו. If a person sell to his fellow an item, מוכר עצב ולוקח שמח. What happened in a transaction between two partners? So you have Mr. let's call him Reuven and Mr. Shimon. So Reuven selling to Shimon a merchandise. So Reuven is in a sense sad and Shimon is happy. Why? Because usually the Talmud tells us when you're selling, for example, a property, so you're not so happy, you sell it because you need to sell it. I think Lawrence will agree with me, right?
Yes.
So when you're selling a property, you're not so happy, but you do it because of the circumstance. So they said the seller is happy, the seller is sad, and the buyer is happy. אבל הקדוש ברוך הוא נקן, but the Almighty God is not like that. נתן להם תורה לישראל ושמח. God gave the Torah to Israel, which is a gift in our sense from God. In our language, it's like something that belongs to God. And he's happy. שנאמר, כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם. He repeats the sentence. I give you a good portion, which is the Torah. Do not forsake my Torah. So this is the opposite than usual human interaction. אמר רבי זביתם רב חיסדא, again the name of rabbis. אם רואה אדם שייסורים באים עליו, if a person see that suddenly, God forbid, is all kind of sorrow befall upon him. So what he needs to do? יפשפש במעשיו. He needs to make a self-search to take an account of his deeds. שנאמר, we said this sentence during the High Holidays service. We said, נחפשה דרכינו ונחקורה. We make a search upon our way of life. And then, ונשובה עד השם. And upon making those searches, we return to the Lord God. There's a many way to make a search. Simple ways, a person just take a pen and piece of paper and write down his daily activities and to see what's wrong. Is that involved if it's a money? It can be involved with overextending a person's with credit cards and others. If it's involved with other actions, a person needs to search why things befall upon him for certain time, certain reason. There has to have a cause and effect. But he said, pishpesh velo matzah. If a person make a serious search, he searched so seriously in everything and anything, and he cannot find something that it's wrong. In other words, he sees that everything is good. So the only thing that he can leave is the key of the keys. Yitle bebitul Torah. He should see the real reason. It's because he is not dedicated time of study Torah every day. שנאמר, it's a clear sentence that said, אשרי הגבר אשר תייסרנו יה, ומתורתך תלמדנו. That they said in a very strong sentence in the Psalms 94, praiseworthy is the man that you Almighty afflicted him with pain, and as a result he starts seriously study the Torah. So it means that people feel sometimes, oh, look what God did to me. And we explain many times that a father that loves his child, he is really strong with him in order to educate him. We explain that the difference between hate and love, people misconstrue that according to Torah way of thinking, the opposite of love is indifferent. Which means if you don't care, then you really don't love. Hates have some component of love. Because we believe that our Father, our King in heaven, the Almighty God, loves us, so because of that, He is inflicting pain upon us in order to educate us properly. So even we have some hours of difficulties, it's for the purpose of bringing us close to Him and to the gift of the Torah. Okay, so now we know that the source of that is the study of Torah, the importance of dedicating every single day a time to study Torah. Now, ve'im tala ve'lo matza, which it's hard to believe that there are cases like that a person dedicate every day time that he study Torah. He puts if he's at work and he have a breaking times, instead of watching a trash movie, he open YouTube and watch Daf Yomi or watch a Torah class. But if he dedicated time to study Torah every day and still there are troubles, he said here, biyadua she'isurim shel ahavaim. It has to relate to a very strong love between God and a person. Shene'emar ki et Hashem yohav Hashem yochiach, that God rebuke or admonish the one that is close to Him. The closest the person to God, the more strict God is with that person. You cannot expecting from unit of Marines or SEALs the same as you're expecting someone who's doing just maintenance in the arm base. It's two different categories, two different expectations. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Schora, Amar Rav Huna. Another rabbi add to that. Kol she'akadosh baruch hu chafetz bo, whoever is close to God, medak'o b'yisurim, he afflicted upon him some type of pain. But we must understand that it's a decree in heaven for the length. In other words, it's not something that's going to happen to a person forever. It's for a certain period of time to wake up a person. It's like the sound of the shofar. And when he changes when he walks, it will disappear. Shene'emar ve'Hashem chafetz dak'o hecheli. It's a very important sentence that said that Isaiah tells us, Isaiah is a prophet that lived 200 years before the destruction of the first temple, and he said, when the Almighty God cared enough for a person, He afflicted some type of illness, temporarily illness upon him, to bring him close to Him. Yachol afilu lo kibla me'ahava. There is a different category how a person takes suffering. One category is a acceptance of upon himself the God's inscrutable will, and accepted as a kind of love. תלמוד לומר, אם תשים אשם נפשו. מה אשם לדעת? אף איסורים לדעת. Which means he need to be a conscientious, he should be aware that this is a signal of connectedness of the Almighty. ואם קיבלה מסחרו, but if he accepted that pain upon himself, what's the reward? יראה זרע יאריך ימים. He will inherit it to see a future generation and length of life. ולא עוד, and furthermore, אלא שתלמודו מתקיים בידו, that also he will granted the ability of understanding his study better, שנאמר, as it said, וחפץ השם בידו יצלח, that the Almighty help him to understand, and therefore he reached the joy. The Rambam tells us the whole idea of afterlife is the idea that the righteous people will be able to be out of a physical jail, physical constraint of body, and they are able to understand God better, which is the highest level of joy. So when a person reaches in this world the ability to understand God better, that's the highest level of joy. So that's another component of reward as a result of suffering. I know that it's a very hard concept, because for people no one wanted, and no one want to have the reward, and people want just to have some type of easy going and easy life. But the truth is that is a reason for that. It's a purpose for all of that. Plige bar Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi Rabbi Acha bar Chanina. Chad Amar, one rabbi said, Elu hem isurim shel ahava. One is a real sign of love between God. It's the kol she'en bahem bitul Torah, which means, how do you know that is sign of love? If you see that the result of this sickness, you cannot focus in your studies, you cannot dedicate time to study because you go, God forbid, from one illness to another, then you call it a suffering of love. Shene'emar, as it said, Ashrei HaGever, praiseworthy a person, Asher tiyatzrenu yad, that God cause him suffering, u'mitoratcha telamdenu, and bring him the gift of Torah. V'chad amar, and another one said, no, if God afflicted suffering, it's not at the cause of study Torah. Elu hen, he said, the reason is Yisurim shel ahava, a suffering of love, kol she'en bahem bitul tefillah. If a person cannot come to the shul, cannot because he's suffering so much, that's a different category. He said here, shene'emar, Baruch Elohim asher lo esir tefilati v'chazdo mi'iti. They said, it's a very important statement, that he said, blessed are you Almighty, that not take his kindness upon me. So here we need to a little bit go further, and I'll read first the concept and then I explain it, the whole opinions what involved here. They said, Amalu Rabbi Abba Bred Rabbi Chia bar Abba, his name of rabbis, Hacha Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Elu va'elu yisurim shel ahava, and both of them it's a signal of love. Shene'emar, as it said, ki et asher yoav Hashem yochech, whatever God love, he is rebuked, he is admonished. Ela ma Talmud tomar metoratcha telamdenu, what the Torah said to that he should learn from the Torah. Al tikri telamdenu ela telamdenu. There is a tzeire and segol. There is two ways to put nikud in the words. Rashi explained here in the word kilomar. We explained that I have a special book dealing with the meaning of Rashi using the word kilomar. But here Rashi tried to tell us that difference between tzeire and segol, davar ze mitoratcha telamdenu. This is what you derive from the Torah. Kal v'chomer mishen ve'ayin. The same way as the Torah tells us that if someone takes away from his servant his teeth or his eye, so as a result of that, he has to free his servant from his time. In other words, even at the middle of the time of slavery, if someone is sold as a slave for X amount of years, and the next week, God forbid, he lost part of his body, so the owner must release him. The same way as the eye or the teeth, that is part of the basic organ of a person, a servant must be free as a result of that. Yisurim, a suffering, shenemarkim kol gufo shel adam, that release the physical of a person, al achat kama v'chama, for sure. V'hainu damar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, that's exactly what Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said. Ne'emar brit b'melach v'ne'emar brit b'yisurim. The Torah used the word covenant in both. One they said about salt meaning when you bring the offering. So if you pay attention, when we do a motzi, we have the bread and then we have the salt. And it's because we have our home as a miniature temple, and we have this offering as a signal of a offering that we used to have in a temple. And therefore we put the salt on the bread, the same symbol as the offering in a temple. And the Torah said in the book of Leviticus, the second chapter, that in every offering you add salt on the offering. So they said the same way that they said a covenant of salt in the offering, and they said also covenant of a suffering as a sign of covenant. In both the Torah used the word covenant, brit. Dechtiv v'lo teshbit melach brit. The Torah said that we should not avoid when you bring the offering, you should not part of the signal of the covenant of offering has to have involved with the soul. So because both involved in soul, they said ונאמר ברית בייסורים דכתיב אלה דברי הברית. The Torah said in the end of the series of admonition that this is the word of covenant. Both of them, המלח ממתק את הבשר, the same way as that the salt created a situation that pull out the blood from the meat and make it sweet. ברית האמור בייסורים, the same way as the covenant that said about suffering, ממרקים עוונותיו שלהם, take away a iniquity of a person. Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai add to that and he said, that's very deep concept. He said, Shalosh matanot tovot natan HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. 3 different gifts the Almighty God gave to children of Israel, but v'chulan lo netanan l'yisurim, and all of them God gave only with suffering. Eiluem, these are the least 3 things: Torah, ve'eretz Yisrael, ve'olam haba, and the world to come. You ask yourself a question. Imagine I'm going to you and give you a gift. Here are $1,000 gift. Take it, but then I slapped on your face while giving you the gift. He said, I don't understand that. You're contradicting yourself. You're beating me up and you give me a gift. What's the purpose? Here they said that God gave it, but He gave it while you need to suffer to get it. So the simple explanation is the idea that you should not take it for granted. So when you receive the gift of Torah, you should understand that it's a gift, but it will not come to you as a silver spoon. You have to work for that. Second is Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. Who are more than us who feel that it's come to suffering? It's not come cheap. It's a very painful process. And the world to come again, persons dedicate his lifetime to get that. So that's again, it's connected to what we said previously. The whole idea of the purpose of suffering is in order to appreciate that. We mentioned when we study the book of Lamentations. So we said that someone asked a question: what's the purpose of lamenting something that happened so many years ago in Jerusalem? So why should I feel the suffering? And for those who will not attend the other classes, so I'll like to share with you the story that the allegory and the story I share with the other group. The answer I gave is a couple that have no children, and they marry for many years, and they pray very hard all their lives to have a child, and then they reach a point that she was at her late 40s, and eventually after a lot of procedures of fertility, eventually she was granted with pregnancy, and they are both very happy. And it's come a time, I make it short, it's come a time that they go to the hospital, and she was getting to the delivery room. The information come out from the doctors that she's in a real crisis, and the husband were praying and praying and praying, and eventually the doctor come out and he said there is a choice between her or the baby. So yes, we know by halacha that we always choose the living, but in that case, in that hospital in Boston, the situation was that he said to the doctor, I have to go to the room and talk to her. And the husband went and speaks to his wife, and she said, look, I love you very much, there's no doubt about it, but we all work so hard for so many years and pray so hard to have this baby. And they said it's going to be a baby boy. I'd rather have the baby, and when he reached the age of the 13, he will be bar mitzvah, so make sure that you say Kaddish for me. But to me, my life has no meaning if I lose my last opportunity to have this baby. So the husband was broken-hearted, and he signed all the papers, and the doctors came out an hour later, and he said, look, I have a good news and bad news. I have a good news that you have a baby boy, Mazel Tov, but I have a bad news to tell you, Baruch Dayana Emet, blessed are you God, who is a true judge, because she is no longer among the living. So the father need to raise this child independently, and when the child reached the age of bar mitzvah, It was a big celebration, and he repeats to the son the story how he survived because of his mother. And he asked the son to say mourner's Kaddish over his mother. So the son say the Kaddish like some people have, to rush, mumbling the word, and said it with no feeling. And the father said to the son, what's wrong with you? You survived because of her. You have your life because of your mother. And what type of business is this to say Kaddish in such a manner, such in a hurry? And the son responded and he said, what do you want from me? I never met her, I don't know her. So why you want me to say it with feeling? For sure it's a teenager's reaction. But the message is very clear. When a person feels that we are here because of them, because of the destruction of Beis Hamikdash, because of all the suffering that our ancestors went through, then he appreciates what he needs to partake of all of that. And that's the meaning of suffering. The whole idea of receiving the gift of Torah, the gift of Eretz Yisrael, the gift of all to come, all these three components doesn't come cheap. It's a process that the person needs to go through in order to appreciate that and carry on. And that's something we should take to our hearts. When a person sees that there's all kind of challenge in his or her life, they have to make a self-search, because it has to be a reason for that. We believe strongly that God loves his creature. And because he loves us, it has to have a reason for everything that happened in our lives. So if we take this message to our heart, we hope and pray that all of this, which call Yisurim, it's not really suffering. It's like the father said, okay, I'm talking to you in a nice way. I couldn't make you follow this important lesson, so we need to go in a different direction. But again, it's because the father is care. It's not expressing indifference, which is the opposite of love, is really caring father. Thank you.
Die, 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 die.